All right, welcome in to the Scoop on Bowl season presented by Hellman's Mayonnaise, the #1 selling mayonnaise brand for over 100 years. Hellman's been doing it with high and quality ingredients. And now we're on to the national championship. Joined here by Landon Walker, pit crew member William Byron, and also former Clemson football player. Though I don't feel so bad this time introducing you.
I know. It's good being here, you know, the Ohio State situation that we're in, but it's good to be here.
And then Tampa Tim's is back.
What's up?
How's the bowl season been for you for betting?
Pretty good actually. I think it's been very predictable though, so that might be why I'm doing really well.
So you're like sad that it's coming to an end?
No, because there's less time to screw it up. You know what I mean? Like I had a good run.
End on a high.
And it's always like gonna come back down. So you don't want to. You got to end on the high and go into NASCAR season.
End on a high. So we got one national championship game left. We got some NFL bowl games, playoff games coming on. So if you're going to any parties, need some ideas for what you're going to make, head over to hellmans.com/recipes. They can give you all the ideas if you can't come up with anything. Ohio State, Notre Dame, national championship, January 20th, 7:30 p.m., Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I don't think these two teams were what we thought it was going to be. Notre Dame beat Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State to get there. Ohio State, Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas.
Well, speaking of Texas,
I knew this.
Trav, you're burying the lead here. You were at Ohio State, Texas. Not only were you at, you rivaled Tulane girl. What is it, Florida State girl with the pretty blue eyes? I mean,
Yes.
You were on TV at the perfect moment.
He's the guy.
Yeah,
He is
you're
going
famous.
to be literally if I send meme, GIF, something where I'm just not happy, that's the new face I'm sending.
It's your face.
They did me dirty.
They did.
And you want to know why they did me dirty? It's not that they showed me. Cameraman, director, producer, you did your job. But then 30 seconds later, we scored a touchdown, and I get nothing.
Like an electric touchdown too.
Yes.
Like what, 80-yard screen?
75-yard screen
Yeah.
to the house right before halftime.
I agree.
Show me the love.
Oh, no.
It was exploitation there. I think they were watching you and they knew exactly where to go when that thing got turned upside down for a minute.
But
Yeah.
at least I wasn't like, what was it in the NCAA tournament, the girl playing the flute, and she's like crying.
Yeah.
That
It could have been worse.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised it was you. I was just watching and I'm like, I just enjoying the game. Ohio State's losing now, and I'm like, we're about to lose. I guess they tied it up, right? Wasn't that a tie?
yeah, it was
touchdown?
7-7.
Yeah. So tied the touchdown. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good game. Good game. Oh my God, Travis. So it was a good surprise. I didn't know you were going to be there, so it's good to see that you were there and happy at that point of the game at least.
So I'm standing there, and Denny Hamlin goes, "You're on TV." I go, "What?" He goes, "You're on TV," and I'm thinking just Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And then I feel my phone,
Yeah.
and it's just vibrating. I pick it up, and it's just a flood of messages and phone calls, just probably 300.
I was about to ask how many text messages you had.
Easily 300 text
Oh
messages.
my,
yeah.
You're popular.
And then Twitter blew up. The best, though, someone texted me and go, "Denny Hamlin's tweeting about you." Go, I know.
He's beside me.
I'm right next to him.
Yeah.
But, man, it honestly, so my birthday was the day after, so at midnight became my birthday. That day was probably the best day of that moment. That game was just, the environment was awesome. Like, AT&T Stadium is a perfect spot for a game. The Texas fans, honestly, I'll give them credit, very nice. Like, back and forth ribbing with some fans, but, like, in a fun manner, great game. And then I don't know if you saw the video of me when Jack Sawyer made the strip sack.
Yes, I think I did. Yeah.
I think I was celebrating when he got to the 50, maybe the 30. And we had a friend that was with us, and he's like 5'4",
Yeah.
and I just picked him up off the ground.
I saw the hug. I didn't see the pickup, I don't think.
Yeah.
I've never seen a grown man jump like that over a scoop and score.
I love it, though. You know, I appreciate the enthusiasm. I mean, it's good to see you happy. It's good to see them win and get through that game. Do you feel like that the Ohio State fans reciprocated that? You said that the friendliness of the Texas fans. Do you feel like it was the same reciprocation there?
I know our area was nice, but I'm guessing there was a good majority. We did have an Ohio against the world flag that we pulled out at Texas Live multiple times and got some booze.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So there's probably some, but I feel like we handled ourselves well. But I mentioned it's Ohio State Notre Dame. Which fan base do you least want to win this game?
Oh, man. That's a tough question. I think Notre Dame's probably my least favorite fan base just because the conference situation has always pissed me off, and I can't tell you why. It's obviously an advantage to them to not play in a conference. So if you're a Notre Dame person, don't take offense to it because it works out for you to not have to play the conference championship.
You make like $14 million a game.
You make way more money, but I hate it, and I don't know why. If you say I love Notre Dame, I get pissed. It's just like I don't want to.
We can agree on that.
We can agree, absolutely, and I feel like that it's just one of those situations where I can't. There's no rhyme or reason. They play all ACC teams, and our conference was.
Did you play them at all?
We did not. I got lucky. Didn't have to worry about them just because it was a situation that can hurt the conference team. It doesn't hurt them, right? I mean, technically, they could still win 10, 11 games and make the playoffs in this scenario, not that one. But anyway, so I don't know. I just feel like it does nothing good for anyone else but them.
To your point, during the COVID year, guess what they did when they needed something? They joined the ACC for 1 year.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. Yeah, they did join it.
Stop doing favors for them.
Yeah, and I looked at their schedule. They played, 5 ACC games this year, or 6, I think. So they obviously play all ACC teams. Not one of them was like not that, Clemson had the best year, but they were a pretty decent team in that conference, obviously winning the conference. They didn't play Clemson. Mm-hmm. They didn't play a dog team, I mean, let's be honest, until they got the playoffs. So and they're better than I thought. I'll give them credit for that. I'm supposed to give them credit. And they beat some teams that were quality teams.
So we'll get into Ohio State, Notre Dame in a second. But Tim, who do you least want to win as like the fan base in dealing with them?
Probably Ohio State because
you sit next to me at work.
I sit next to you at work, and I hear it all the time. But Ohio State fans are like New York Giants fans. I'm from New York, so I'll do a pro NFL comparison. Ohio State's way better, so that you warrants it for this take. But like you're just so confident in your team. Nothing else matters in college football but your team. I love it. It's the passion, but I'm like, even if your team sucks, it's still about, well, if we win this game, I don't know, the committee might do that. It's like, you're done. You're out. You're done.
That's very well said. I think it's and look, I think Ohio State's the best team in the country, and that hurts to say, but it's true.
Say it again.
It's true, and you had it when we were sitting here talking before the playoffs. I was like, they are not going to get through their division. They're not going to get.
I didn't think they were going to beat Tennessee.
I knew they were going to have to play Tennessee, and then obviously play Texas, and I was like, I just don't see it. But to your point, sorry to cut you off, but it's like, hey, they're the team that I don't want to see win, but they're kind of they look good.
They look really good. They are really good. I thought the Michigan loss was like, I think everybody was like, oh, maybe they're like.
Oh, I was down.
Yeah,
completely.
You were down. You're like, this is a lost season, and then like the 2-week layoff or whatever they had before they had to play Tennessee, and then they crushed Oregon. It's like, so they're back.
Apparently, they had a players-only meeting. Like, what do you think went down that like?
Well, I think
like a coming to Jesus moment, like people like putting their feelings out there.
Yeah, and I got a question for you. We're talking about players-only meetings going into the Michigan game, but like you lose to Michigan, right? And we were sitting here talking about you lose to Michigan and you potentially win a national championship. Is that a successful season? And I think,
I said I'd rather beat Michigan than win it all.
I agree. Yeah, you did say that, and now we're hitting, potential to win it all. So it's like
I'd like to retract that.
Exactly.
After you lose to Michigan, though, like you're at a bottomless pit as an Ohio State fan base, as the team. So yeah, when you have that players-only meeting, you're probably going into the meeting saying, guys, we are better than this. Like we're letting the Michigan team, who's not even really, competitive compared to the last year when they won it, to this year, like beat us. And that's 4 years in a row, that they've let Michigan beat them. And it's like, what is up with that? And it's like, how does that team, after they lost to Michigan, I was like, there ain't no way these guys are winning natty. And then Tennessee walks into a buzzsaw. Mm-hmm. So, and then it's been like that for every team that's played them since. So something went down in that players-only meeting.
I do think one thing, Jeremiah Smith did go to Brian Hartline and said, I want you to challenge me. And I think a lot of people thought that was like push him just individually, but I think it was like challenge him by like, get me the ball, let me carry this team.
Yeah. And
I think he has in a way. Now, in the Texas game, we'll get into that, but I think that might have been part of it. But so as a playoff as a whole, though, what do we think? This is the first year that we had 12 teams. Your possible national champions are either going to a loss to Northern Illinois, or a 6-5 in your rival for the 4th year in a row. Those are your two champions that you're going to get. So what do we think as a whole is this 12? Do we like the format? Are we good?
I love it.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's gone exactly how we expected it to,
Yep.
if that makes sense. I think the only real bye team that we thought, had a shot to move on was probably Georgia.
Yeah.
But without Carson Beck, I think that was kind of like, okay, they're going to have an uphill battle.
Yep.
But like I think the bye weeks are okay. It's just like NFL is going through the same thing. I mean, MLB goes through the same thing too. It's like you give these teams a round break, and it's like, is it rust first, recovery? It's like, all right. I mean, but still, I mean, I think Texas and Arizona State game really saved the current format, I think, because that was a great game.
It was one of the better games of the whole playoffs.
Yeah, and as Arizona State was considered one of these underdogs, like, all right, they're just going to get in because they won their conference. I think they helped fight the case that they still deserve to have that bye week if you win that conference.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you were to just change who gets those buys, this would have been different because I think we all, to a man, would agree that Boise State and ASU were massive underdogs, and they had the bye. So, nobody expected them to win anyway, so you can't hold it against them when they didn't.
Yep.
Now, had it been reversed, Texas and another team would have gotten those buys. I think it would have been different. So I think if we just adjust that, this model's perfect.
It is. And then an ability to be able to come back from losing to a Northern Illinois during the season, and that not being like the straw that broke the camel's back sort of thing, right? Because in the past, you couldn't do that, right? I mean, you weren't getting in. I mean, I don't think so. And you got a committee with 4 teams. They're not picking Notre Dame to be in this situation. So I think I like the situation where you can play a non-conference team, whether they're good or not, lose, win the rest of your games, come back, potentially be a playoff team. I think it's awesome for football because there's a second chance on the table now. It's kind of more NFL-ish because you can lose during the regular season and make something of it. I don't necessarily think it needs to be more than 12 teams. I mean, I think that's a good argument. Do we go more or less? But, I just don't know how that conversation unfolds in the next couple of years. But we'll see how much better the playoff becomes because of the 12-man playoffs. Maybe it becomes better.
Yeah, like when you played, 1 loss and your season was in jeopardy, and 2, you were
way
done.
gone. Way gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so now I hate that Notre Dame's season against NIU would have been over.
Yeah.
And so I think it's made the regular season better. So let's get to the national championship game. As I said, it's 7:30 p.m. Monday night, January 20th, night game. As a player, what do you like? Do you like the night game? And then what's your routine like?
Yeah, I don't like the night games. I mean, I hated them. So the 2 games I didn't like was a 12 o'clock game and a night game because you had to sit around all day. Most of the time you're in meetings in the mornings and you're going through walkthroughs and you're going over your game sheets and stuff like that, play sheets as an offense and defensively. You're going over there what you think that your defense are going to line up in. But the long story short is a lot of waiting. It's a lot of waiting. You get off. You do that, and you go to the stadium, and it's like 4 o'clock, and more waiting. It's just hurry up and wait. It's very similar to NASCAR sort of. You get to the track, and you got 6 hours. You got to get your stuff done, and you got to wait. So it's tough. It's tough to stay in that ready environment. And I feel like a national championship game, obviously you can get hyped for that game, right? It's different than just playing Northern Illinois at 12 o'clock during the season. So. But at the same time, it's tough from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective to be ready at that time. So how do you kind of peak at the right moment?
And get the sleep. I imagine some of these players are going to be waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning just ready to go.
Like Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited. So I think that's the thing. Try to sleep in. It's hard to do when you're in that situation. And then try to rest throughout the day without being restless. So I don't know. It's a tough thing. And then being able to be there at the right moment. But I think, most of these coaches, just like most of these teams, have it down to a system now where the players feel like they're getting there at the right time. They're not too excited early. They try to keep it, the emotions down until it's time to roll, which is, again, it's tough. You just got to – and then you got to be able to turn it on, right? Because you're tired or whatever you're dragging. You just want to be okay, time to turn it on.
As a player, do coaches, if it's a night game, do they push back their normal routine that it would be? So, you're not starting the meetings at the same time as you would at a 12 o'clock game, so you're so your day kind of starts later. Similarly, but later.
Yeah, everything's pushed to 9, 10 o'clock, and they do that intentionally, right? To give the players that morning to just wake up and breathe a little bit, not rush, because you don't want to feel that way. Because I feel like a 12 o'clock game is the direct opposite. You have to be your first meeting at 7, because you're going to the stadium, at 10 o'clock, right? It's crazy. So it's just a big difference. But I think that 3 o'clock's the best time, but not that we have a choice here. But if I was to pick, that's the best time to play a game. But I think it's going to be. You got these two teams playing each other. They could kick this thing off at 6 a.m. and I think we're going to have a pretty decent game. So it'd be fun to watch no matter what.
I really wish it wasn't on a Monday night, but that's not going to change. But Tim, so I'm going to be at the game. I'm waking up in Charlotte, and I'm going to make a road trip down there.
Okay, nice 4 hours.
So 4-hour drive.
Yes.
How should my day proceed?
Well, your day, whenever you get to Atlanta, you should go visit this nice place called Oasis and get breakfast. Okay, doesn't matter what time you get there. Nice place, you'll love it. Okay, you'll enjoy it.
What are we talking? Breakfast foods here.
Some grits. Maybe some extracurricular activity.
Okay.
And then you're gonna go to Magic City because it opens at 3 p.m. So if you get there by 3 p.m., you will be fine. You'll be at Magic City. Maybe the crowd could be yours. Not a lot of competition, if you know what I mean. And then before you
Do I get some lemon pepper wings?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe
Perfect.
some lunch. It's lunchtime. But before you go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, before you make your way into that atmosphere, you gotta stop off at Claremont and go to see Blondie and crush some cans. And
You trying to get me killed before I go to the game?
Yeah.
Not
Where's this at? Claremont? You said.
Claremont, yeah, it's still
Okay.
Atlanta.
Yeah, you're right
I don't
there.
know what parts of Atlanta, but it's still in the greater area.
Okay.
That's
That sounds like a hell of a day. I'll be honest with
Yeah,
you. Hell of a day. I don't know if he's ready for that. I think if he's got a 4-hour drive and you have a driver, right?
yeah.
Okay. I don't think he's going to be in any shape when he gets to the game to do anything other than just barely get to his seat.
Like my goal was to get to Fox Brothers, my favorite barbecue place in the world. It's in Atlanta. That's where I was gonna go.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna take it easy to start.
There's some substitutions you can do. You can do one of these three.
Can I move Magic City to Victory?
I would say
post
if you're
game.
gonna do something pregame, what I told you to do, Blondie is probably what you want. I don't know how you can't get hyped by seeing that.
That's hype.
Yeah.
That would definitely get the mood right for the game.
I would think so. Yeah. If I want to choose one, that's what I'm gonna go do.
For sure.
So
I might just be there.
Yeah. You know what?
know
We're
that guy.
going.
Yeah.
We're riding in the van.
Exactly.
I got to see this myself.
Yeah.
all right, so let's move to the game now. Notre Dame, they're a good team, but they are dealing with injuries galore, and they just lost their starting left tackle, who wasn't even supposed to start this year, but their left tackle originally got hurt at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
We're unsure who's going to start. How big of a loss is that to go? Like, you got 7 days to prepare for Jack Sawyer and JTT.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I think when you lose a guy like that going into a game like this, I mean, it speaks for itself, speaks volumes. I mean, Jack Sawyer, possibly one of the greatest plays in the playoffs this year for sure, and then, maybe ever for Ohio State. So I think he's going to go down in Ohio State history for just being the guy to have the sack fumble and then take it all the way. So, I mean, that right there speaks enough. But just watching them guys play, I mean, other than that defensive line, they're hungry. I mean, they are a bunch of dogs. So I think if you see those guys going against this offensive line, it's to me it's very obvious how this game's going to go because it's usually I watch that's where I see the game won or lost, and you see a good offensive line, you're like, okay, well, they got a shot. And look, injuries are going to happen. It's just part of the game, but it's not what you want to have, in this coming into this game.
And Rocco Spindler, their one of their guards, he's got a bum ankle.
Yeah.
You deal with an ankle injury when you're in the trenches,
Yep.
not easy. Can you spat that up and take some medicine and
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to take some medicine. He's definitely going to have some spat going on, but it's like, you're going to do everything you can do to play. This is a national championship, so whatever it takes. I mean, that's you don't want to walk away from this game thinking, man, I just should have done that. So they're going to do everything they can do to get this guy in the game. But when it comes down to it, I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough for these guys.
Tim's, what do you like as a fan? You just enjoy ball,
Yeah.
And you're looking at this and you see these injuries. What are you thinking?
Well, I think based off
For the record, he thought Penn State was going to win, so
I did.
Take
But
this
I mean, that was more the quarterbacks and the offensive line. I will say, all you heard for the Texas-Ohio State game is they got boys up front. They got boys on the defense. I mean, they do, but Ohio State ran right through them. I mean, Jack Sawyer, he had the most – that's the game changer for me is the pass rush for Ohio State. And
It is.
They are so energized right now. They're so charged up. I don't know if you could stop them. And then if you have injuries and you're already starting down –
Yep.
and these are college kids. So, they're hearing this all week probably too, and they know what Ohio State. You're coming into a buzzsaw. You're coming into the biggest play in Ohio State history, or one of them. That is going to be a mental grind, and if they can actually show up and block that out, they're ready for the pros because they are that's hard to do. I think in college the injuries are magnified times 10 on a bigger stage because of that.
Yeah, and Notre Dame gave up 5 sacks against Penn State, who had Abdul Carter, couldn't even use his one shoulder.
Yep.
Ohio State's had 16 sacks in the last 3 games. So I think Jim Knowles, has found something. I think part of it is a new defensive coordinator. It took a couple years for them to kind of understand. So now when he calls a play, the players know what he's thinking, can get after it. And also, Riley Leonard loves to run the ball, but he got beat up last. I mean, he missed the end of the first half against Penn State. I'm curious, if he can hold up.
Well, I think they're gonna make this offense one-dimensional. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that, we talk about the run game and being able to throw the ball, and I think if you're gonna put Riley Leonard in a box and he's just gonna feel pressure the entire game, which is, what we've seen in the playoffs from this defensive line, I think it's going to be pretty evident. He's going to feel the pressure, and they're going to do everything they can to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. So when these guys get after him, what's he going to do? Is he going to be able to make plays? Is it going to make their offense one-dimensional, or they have to be able to throw the ball where they can't run the ball because of these guys on defense? So I think it's to me, watching these teams throughout the playoffs, I think it's pretty obvious that the trenches are going to be the evident, the difference in the game. But man, it's defensive line. They're just impressive. And, I'm not trying to take away from Ohio State's offensive line. They've played tremendous through this playoffs too. So I think this team just has that. They have the talent. They have the ability to make other offenses feel really uncomfortable. So I think that's going to be the difference.
How much is it as offensive line? You're not going to win every rep.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
No, it's not going to happen.
Offensive line, cornerback, you can't win every. To just not give up the big one or give up a holding call where then all of a sudden you're 1st and 24 now.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it's like you literally I talk about it all the time. I mean, if you are the guy on defense who's sacks a quarterback 3rd down and 15, you're potentially your draft stock goes way up. If you're the offensive line giving up that sack, maybe you're going to work at Amazon after you're done playing college. Mm-hmm. It's a big difference. It's a big difference because you're all eyes are on the offensive lineman to protect this guy who's down in a freaking a bird dog stance, and he's going as hard as he can to get back there. So you're already at a disadvantage. We talked about this last time, the passing game versus the running game, and it's obvious when you're going to pass the ball. So, you just don't want to be the guy who is giving up that big play. So, give your quarterback a chance, ultimately.
The goal is Landon Walker never wanted his family to hear his name said.
No doubt.
No,
Never, ever. So, that was it. So, I was like, you know what? If I see him in my periffs, I'm just going to force the guy past it because you're going to get beat. Like we just talked about, you're going to get beat. It's just how can I manipulate the situation to make me look as not as bad as possible, right? I don't want to be the guy who's just standing there as the guy's tackling my quarterback, but it's a bad scenario, especially if you're going against this D line. I would be losing a lot of sleep this week.
Yeah, it's a crazy point. It's he's in college. It's even magnified because you have a NFL draft prospect playing left tackle and a guy who's not going to ever play football again, maybe after this game, playing left guard, only in college. You see that.
Yep.
And even the backups are probably even more of a separation of talent.
Yep.
So it's to replace multiple offensive linemen must be such an uphill challenge. It's going to be crazy.
At this level, it's almost impossible, right? With NIL, with the portal, all that stuff. It's hard. How do you manage the offensive lines? I mean, I think depth is an issue for every good team in the country now.
Yeah.
Not just average teams, right? With your Alabama's not there anymore. Depth issues. And I don't want to get down a rabbit hole, but that is the biggest issue you see with the portal.
And you can't. It's just an NFL where you can't mid-season injury. Let me go trade for a player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What you have is what you get, and this is both teams. This will be their 16th game.
Yep.
It's cool. It's a long.
That's
season.
an NFL regular season.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So now Riley Leonard, I think, is going to have to run the ball a lot. His number for over/under for rushing yards is 36.5. Now sack yards do count against him.
Mm-hmm. Boy.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Jeez.
He's in trouble.
So I think he has to run it 15 times. But is this in a bet where it's just stay away?
Personally, I don't bet quarterback rushing yards in college because of the sack.
I need advice, though.
I know, but for the sake of the argument, because you will,
yes,
I would take the over just because he does run a lot, and he is going to have to run. And when we just talked about all the offensive line injuries, I think even if he's throwing, there's a great chance he's running. So, listen, you're going to – the sack yards is bull. Why do they take those away from us?
I don't know.
But
doesn't make sense.
But at the same time, listen, he's going to try to make a lot of plays. You're going to have a lot of opportunities. And when you're talking about over and a yards, you just want the opportunities.
Yeah, so he's ran for 30, 80, and 35 in his 3 playoff games. So only hit that mark once. But Ohio State, when they played against Tennessee, Nico had ran for 47. He really running the ball was what kept Tennessee even in the game.
Yeah.
So I think Notre Dame's going to look at that and go, okay, Riley likes to run. We're going to use it. Now, I think what needs to happen, I don't condone injuries, but Lathan Ransom just needs to lay the boom on him.
Yeah, he will.
And make him not want to run.
It's going to be quick.
Or the other thing is, can you get up early to change it? So if you're Notre Dame, they love the middle 8, the final 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 of the third. But if you're Notre Dame, if you win the coin toss, do you elect to take the ball to try to hold control early on so Ohio State doesn't get the ball and go down real fast?
I think you have to. I think you have to have the ball as much as you can when you play a team like that. I mean, you have the talent they have, obviously, with your shirt that they have on offense. I think you have to be able to just keep those guys off the field as much as possible. Now, you're putting yourself, obviously, in a situation where, hey, you're not going to get the ball in the second half, especially if you're down, But, hey, I think you want to take it early and try to get it often. But Ohio State is such a dangerous team. I think that the big play and the explosive plays are there at any moment for them. So it's like, what do we do to keep them off guard? And you were talking a little bit about, do you use trick plays and things like that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a trick play on offense, but special teams. That Marcus Freeman showed against Georgia. They ran their punt team on at the last second, got a false start or an offside, and kept the drive alive. I think you're going to see that.
You have to keep a team like that off balance. Whatever you can do to shift the momentum, I think you have to do that, right? Because you don't want those guys to get confident and get a 21-point lead, which can happen quick, as we saw against Oregon. I mean, what was it, like 35 early or something?
34-0.
34-0, yeah. And I was sitting there like, what?
Game's over at that point.
It's over.
Yeah.
Because you go into halftime just depleted, and you're like, how do we – you don't want to come back out there.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that situation. So, I think Notre Dame is going to do everything they can do to throw Ohio State off their normal game of just high scoring, fast scoring, and how do you do that? Like you said, trick plays. Maybe you're switching up your defensive scheme, more than just once. Like you're coming at them maybe from the start of the game with a completely different defense than they've seen the last 2 games just to throw them off.
So I think that's one thing Ohio State's with Caleb Downs. Jim Knowles is allowed to do so many different things. He just walks Caleb up in the box, and then right before the snap, he sprints out and he moves him around. So I think they're going to do a lot of spying and that stuff because Notre Dame doesn't threaten you in the passing game.
No, they're not. Yeah, their game is not to they're nothing like Ohio State. It's just going to be an interesting game. I'm surprised they're there. I'm a little sorry because I feel like it would have been a better game if we had seen it another way, but I just don't see it. I don't see how they can keep up with that offense and that defense.
Before we move to the other side, Tim's, I need another
advice.
Riley Leonard passing is 178.5. I think this is an avoid because if they get down, he has to throw, and you could get a garbage 50 yards or something in a late drive.
Yeah, that'd be my argument for the over. But because how we think this game's going to go, I think is meaning he's going to have to pass.
Yeah.
But, 178 doesn't seem like a whole lot. But then again, like we said, he could just get sacked too. Like just because you have to throw doesn't mean you're actually going to get the yards. So you can get sacked. They're not going to count against you. But listen, he's always going to try to run. I mean, listen, he's going to try whatever he can do to extend this game, extend the plays, and like you guys are saying, they have to get out early, or this is going to be a long night.
I think you got to go under there. I think it's going to be – look, I don't want to blow his head up any more than it already is, but I think it's going to be an absolute beatdown.
Yeah.
And I hate that because, I want to see a good game. We all want that in a national championship game, but I just don't see them keeping up, and I don't see them being able to keep the pressure off of Riley Leonard. I just don't see how they can. So I think it's going to be him kind of back there by himself just throwing the ball to the crowd most of the time, trying to figure out where to get someone open.
Did I ever say you're a smart man?
Listen, I really appreciate that, and I'm going to enjoy
Clemson
this.
education.
Next year when Clemson's in this situation,
they won't.
I hope that you can remember the nice things I'm saying today.
Exactly. I got a short-term memory.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
On the flip side, Ohio State's offense.
Yep.
I'm wearing a Jeremiah Smith T-shirt.
You are.
Against Texas, 1 reception, 3 yards.
Yep.
Do you think they can reverse that, or you think Notre Dame employs a similar strategy? We're not going to let you beat us.
Yeah. I think you can attack it from that angle, but I think they have too many different opportunities to beat you. You know what I mean? With the run game, they're going to beat you in other ways. So if you want to focus on Jeremiah Smith and say, hey, this is guys, you can beat us in 10 other ways. This isn't going to be it. then I think they're still going to beat them. It's not going to – like there's just too much talent on the field, right? I mean, if he gets loose and he runs for the way he did on Oregon, I think it's obvious that he's going to be able to, make big plays. But, will you go that angle or not? I think it's just a matter of whether Notre Dame decides to, like I said, do they want to focus on that one player? They just want to say, okay, we're going to try to shut down your run game and then make you beat us through the air. And I think that's pretty obvious how that's going to go down.
Yeah, honestly, this is why I feel so confident in Ohio State is because they have 3 number 1 wide receivers.
Yes.
Like I think what makes teams great is like clearly Texas was trying to shut down. You're not going to beat us with Jeremiah Smith. They're like, all right, we'll just throw the 8 to 10 yard check down routes, and they got first down after first down after first down. First drive, I texted my buddy, this is over. Ohio State's crushing them.
Yeah.
Now Texas settled in. I'll give them credit, but like they were just so much better. Texas couldn't stop them.
Yeah. But to your point, though, they settled in, but it was because Ohio State, the next drive, they were moving. Travion Henderson had an uncharacteristic late personal foul penalty, couple holding calls. So, I think had they not shot themselves in the foot, I think they would have crushed them.
Ohio State's offense, they have like they can run the ball explosively. They can beat you down. They can beat you down just short passes, or they can explosively throw it down the field, and you get like 60-yard touchdowns with Jeremiah Smith. They have so many ways they can beat you, and if you take away one, they'll just do the other.
The thing I love about Jeremiah, too, is the kid's confidence is through the roof. He said going into the Oregon game, I'm just laughing in my head. Why are y'all playing man-on-man against us, against me? When we see man, we're going to take a shot down the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a freshman.
Yeah.
He told Oregon, if you play man against me, I'm going to beat you.
Yeah.
And nobody plays more man coverage than Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Now, Notre Dame's got some good defensive backs. But if they don't double coverage him.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be bad.
Now, so I mentioned Ohio State had a lot of penalties, a lot of holding calls. I want you to try to put yourself in that offensive line meeting.
Yeah.
You're happy you won, but in a way, like, you're probably just motivated. Like, we want to get out there and play. Like, we didn't play a good game.
No, obviously. No, you don't want penalties to be a part of the game. You don't want that to affect – because obviously the first thing people point to is your discipline.
But you're not happy. So, like, I think a lot of fans are like, are they going to be happy and not focused? But you're not.
No, I think your offensive line guys are a little – I don't want to use the word not confident because they're not like Jeremiah Smith. They're looking at themselves more within than I think a lot of the other guys do on the team because they feel like, hey, we didn't play a good game either. We won. It was awesome. They're more of the pit crew side of it. They tend to look at themselves, I think, from within. Like, we could have lost that. We could have screwed that up more than we did. We got lucky that we had other athletes take care of business with just dumb discipline plays, right? That's day one stuff. So I think from an offensive line perspective, you want to go into a game, all right, we didn't play the way we should have. We didn't kind of communicate like we should have across the line. It's going to be a different game. Going against Notre Dame, still a good defense, but nothing like what they see in practice every day.
What is that like? So you live it now as a pit crew member.
Yep.
William Byron is getting all the love when he wins, rightfully so.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's the quarterback is going to get that, or the receiver. Yep. But if there's a bad holding call or if there's a bad pit stop, especially now with all the airtime, the pit. So what's that like after a pit stop, good or bad? And it's like,
yeah, it's bad because the magnifying glass is on you, right? You feel like, hey, man, this guy's running first all day, and then all of a sudden he comes down, we shoot him out third. So you're putting him in a terrible position, and he's not happy with you, right? I mean, obviously, deservingly so. When you put him in a position where, we should just not pit it, right? We just whatever we had to for tires, but whatever. It just sucks to have to come down pit road and lose. So. Looking at it from the negative perspective because that's kind of what we're comparing it to. But in that situation, you're pissed off at yourself. You feel like, hey, we had an opportunity to do something great and we didn't. And so you learn from it. That's the number one thing, right? As an offensive lineman, as a pit crew guy, you learn from it. You learn, hey, like what we did there, let's learn to handle the pressure more. Let's learn to absorb what we did wrong. How do we fix it? Instead of necessarily pointing fingers because that's where you don't want to get to. And that's most of the time these teams – do a good job of working on their problems from within instead of, hey, this guy sucks, let's get rid of him. That's usually not the way that you're going to get better.
So if it's a mistake on a pit stop early in the race, so you still have chances.
Yep.
Is there a chat or is it kind of like if you mess up and no one says anything, or what happens after a pit stop?
I think early in the race it's more of a self-absorbed situation. You know the guy that, maybe you did it or maybe the other guy beside you did it and you're like, hey, the guy knows. He knows. The worst thing I can do is go over to him and be like, hey, man, look, you sucked right there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't help the
knows
situation.
He
knows
you're pros. The first stop. Now, compare that to the last stop, you're going to maybe be in some meetings on Tuesday, right? Because you're like, that's the money stop, right? That's where you're supposed to be on it. You had 5 other stops to warm up. So the first one being the worst one is not really – doesn't kill you because you can get those spots back. Similar to playing offensive line when you come out the first quarter and you have a penalty and it's like, okay, well, that wasn't the best situation where we costed ourselves 10 yards and we're driving down the field. So how do we come back from that? We don't do it again, and eventually you'll get back to that situation where you have an opportunity to score. So especially with an offense like this, right? You're going to score. Just don't put yourselves on a 3rd down and 20 to make it that much harder for your quarterback and receivers to catch the ball.
Tim's, if Ohio State scores 28 points, can Notre Dame win? Like, what does Notre Dame have to score to win?
They got to hit the 30s. I think it's – I mean, I don't want to say first to 30 is going to win because I think Ohio State could win if they could score 21, 24 and still win. But if Notre Dame scores 30, I think they're definitely going to win.
See, I think Notre Dame needs to find a way to muck it up early, and they got to find a way can they win 21-17? Like, I don't think they can hit the 30 mark.
They got to one, keep up with Ohio State, or they got to score early and score often. Like, if you go score first touchdown, like you said, get the ball first, go up 7-0, maybe you get a stop, then you go up 14-0, you're in great shape if you're Notre Dame. But then you gotta contain and gotta hold. If you go down, 3 and out, and Ohio State goes 7, 10, another field goal, 13 or a touchdown, it's like this game's over. You're not coming back at multiple scores like that.
Yep. If you have a few 3 and outs as Notre Dame and they're scoring, you're done. I mean, you're done. I don't think you can come back like you said.
No.
I don't see it. I mean, and maybe it's possible if Ohio State just comes out in the second half and just completely, craps down their leg. But I don't see that either. I just think it's a game where you, like you said, you have to score first. And you better keep up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to get drugged. And I think it's only a matter of time before that offense finds its scoring power. And whether it's early or late, we'll see.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering how Ohio State would handle adversity, because since the Michigan game they haven't had to. Tennessee up big, for Oregon against Texas, it was 14-14 late, and so I was wondering, like, if Texas has the ball, can they handle that? And knowing that they've got to get a stop, they can't allow. They got that stop, they scored. And then they held on. So that's the one thing I was wondering is, can Ohio State get punched in the mouth and respond? And I don't think they took a knockout punch from Texas.
No.
But Texas hit them with a body shot, a hard one, and they withstood it.
Yeah, and they responded in the huge play. Like, that's the thing. Texas, they settled in after, like, I think, the opening drive.
Yeah.
But then it was like – but they didn't do anything. They just kind of were like, oh, we're going to stay with them. And it's like, you have to take advantage and you deliver the blow. And, like, even when they did, then they had 30 seconds left in the half. That's a great opportunity to go into the half. It's all tied up. Nope. Get right back. So that whole 8-minute drive or whatever for nothing.
And that's where I wonder if Notre Dame has that big playability.
I don't know. I don't think so. Or they have the guy that can make the big play on defense either, like a Jack Sawyer. Like, that might be one of the greatest college football plays I can ever remember seeing, is a guy sack a quarterback, take the ball from him like a small child, and run it down the field. And
Former
score.
College roommate.
I forgot about that because
they lived together as freshmen.
That's right. So that right there, what disrespect! You're going to do me that way in front of these fans. But no, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But it's like the fact that happened in a game. Like, I was like, I'm never. Usually, you see the end sack him, whatever, in NFL, whatever, and then the other guy pick it up and run it down.
Yep.
That was just freaking impressive that he took the ball and he ran it. It was like no one in sight. So I mean, I think the ability that they're going to have. I mean, I hate to keep doing this to Ohio State, but they're an impressive football team.
I kind of wish you were a little negative, because I normally go into games and I'm not confident, and I hate how confident I am, because I'm like, is this the moment that my dreams are crushed?
No,
Like, I want to be like a little like nervous.
Well,
like,
you think of these championship teams and, like, you look after they win it or in what they went through the whole season. And the biggest thing is, like, what was the turning point of the season and when was it, right? And I think for both teams, they had it, like Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois, but it was so early in the year.
like
they went on this great run to get here, but it's kind of losing steam. Ohio State's was the last game of the regular season, and it's their arch rival, and it's like the perfect opportunity. They just had to come out to the Tennessee game and play like that was their adversity thing, and they did. And I think that's what adds up to it. It's like, wow, this just has a good feeling for Ohio State.
Yeah. Let me throw a wrench in this thing.
yeah, do it.
If Ohio State beats who are they playing? Anyway, if they win the game.
Notre Dame.
Exactly. Let's forget about Notre Dame because it's going to happen.
Where are you going to throw in a wrench? Because so far you said if they beat them.
Okay. if they're playing Michigan in this game, are you more nervous than you would be if they're beating Notre Dame?
Factor would have been just.
Oh my God.
Because that's a true question. Because I'm thinking about not that Michigan deserves to be in this game because they obviously don't because they didn't play.
But
as
we'd
well.
smack them now that we found our identity.
I agree, based on the way the playoffs have went. So that's the question I had is like, you really feel like you'd be a little. I think you'd be a little more nervous. I would be.
Also, I think after seeing how these bowl games played out, it's shown that maybe the Big Ten's the best.
That's a good debate we can have right now
Strong.
because I agree with you, and I thought that after the way this season went, I thought the SEC is ultimately the best team, the best conference, but I think the way that the Big Ten is played, when I watch Penn State play and they played them, and Texas played Ohio State, it's obvious. Even Georgia without Beck, you could have given them Beck, in my opinion, and they still would have lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those receivers still weren't catching the ball.
They weren't catching the ball, and quarterback obviously wasn't playing great, but it's an evident difference. I mean, the Big Ten has arrived.
Tim,
all right?
do we owe your team this year an apology in Indiana? They're two losses this year, Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Well,
There you go.
that is, that's a great point, Travis. Actually, Indiana might be the best team in the nation if it wasn't for these two powerhouse programs.
Like we crapped on them. I did. I still don't think they're that good. I think their schedules.
No.
And look how they played both those teams. Like
You make a good point. And hey, that may be a good selling point for
I'm
Chris
just
Signetti.
not a fan of the head coach.
oh,
man.
he
You don't
talks
like
too
him?
much.
You
I like him.
You guys are more of no flash, just head down, do your business. I like the flash.
It just doesn't fit him. The flash doesn't fit him.
You don't think
When
so?
When he talks smack, it doesn't look like he should.
He's
be
like, we
talking-
beat
Well,
the top 25 teams. Like, you lost to Ohio
No,
State.
that is
Yeah.
egregious. But it takes one bad or mediocre year for that to get quieted.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because James Madison, he can talk all that and nobody hears it. But now he's in a Big Ten. Now he can hear it. So, I mean.
I will
think
give
you're
him
right.
credit, though, where credit's due. The best conference in football, and potentially right now. Let's not get carried away. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But I think next year's going to be, I think every year is going to be, which conference is going to be better. I mean, we know that it's probably not going to be the MAC. We know that it's not going to be some of this. Which Power 5, though, is going to be the best conference. And I don't think we're going to know until the playoffs. I think that's the fun thing about the playoffs now is it going to be the SEC? Is it going to be my boys from the ACC? Hey, it's coming back. Hey, we got
it could
Bill
happen.
Belichick in North Carolina.
That's
right?
true.
Things are going to turn.
What
for
do you
this
think about
conference.
that?
Things are going to turn for our conference.
What do you think about Belichick in college?
I think it's awesome. I think it's great for the ACC. I think it's good for the state of North Carolina. I think it's good for football. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it's how long has it been since there's been a coach? I mean, look, I'm not taking away from Mac Brown at North Carolina. Great coach, but a coach like that at a program like that, it just doesn't. It's kind of crazy to think about. But I think it's his recruiting ability, just from being Bill Belichick, being Tom Brady's guy for however long, is that's going to speak for itself in volumes.
He's going to open doors that a North Carolina coach couldn't get into households for.
100%.
Agreed. He's not going to have to visit. Yeah, I mean, his son is kind of hilarious to me, but it's that whole
He
situation.
could just send his girlfriend.
That's
down.
right. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing's crazy, but I think it's great for that conference because I think they needed okay. North Carolina didn't have a great year. Obviously, they need something.
If Belichick was at UNC when you were deciding, and he
Oh
wanted-
man,
with his pedigree,
wow, that'd be a good.
would
place
you have gone
go.
to UNC over Clemson?
I would have definitely thought about it more because they were not good then, and they weren't. It's like they weren't last year. But if he comes to my house and sits down and he's just like this, sleeves cut,
Drops the rings on the table.
yeah, I'd be like, all right, brother. He's like, I've got more connections in the NFL than any coach in college. I'd be like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the ability he has. He knows more NFL coaches. Not for some reason he didn't get an NFL job, but he is the guy, right? And he knows how to get to the NFL. He knows what it takes to be in the NFL. I think that's who you want to
And
play.
he knows how to find rare talent too.
Yes,
from
he'll
weird
take
places.
it two, like we talk about 2-3 stars. He's going to turn those guys into dogs.
He's going to go to the lacrosse teams in North Carolina and just
Yeah.
pluck
He is.
receivers out and DBs.
I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to find like the guys that get overlooked because they're not talented guys in high school, and he's going to be like, all right, this guy is going to play linebacker and he's going to tackle everybody you can put up against him.
Yep.
It's going to be fun to watch. I think there's a lot of different opinions on it.
He's a hard coach to play for, but if you're someone that is willing to put in the work and grind,
Yep.
you're going to go somewhere because of him.
Yeah, I think it's a good place for him to be. Now, if you took him and put him in like
He wouldn't work at Ohio State.
exactly that talent,
Bama? No.
those types of guys are not going to play.
Miami? No.
Exactly. I think the bigger the stage for college is probably going to be the worst situation for him. But now he's at North Carolina. They're going to be what that grinding team this year, that kind of Detroit Lions of the college football era, I think is what he's going to turn them into.
Yeah, we were all worried about how would he be recruiting? Is he going to know how to do that? He got a 25-year-old girl to date him. What are we talking about?
You're right.
Like, he's the best recruiter in the world.
He is.
I mean,
he is,
and he's a world-renowned coach. Not get that, but he's not like he's like lighting the world up in the looks department or his personality.
I mean, he's got yachts, right?
It's
a couple yachts.
Yeah. I don't want to speak for the girl, but I mean,
he's gonna take the kids on the yachts.
He's probably charming as hell.
He's got a great personality.
He's probably so charming.
He doesn't have to say anything.
No.
He just needs to show you, like you said, Super Bowl
The
ring.
rings, yeah.
We got to do a whole podcast on Belichick now. I feel like that's got to happen.
That's next.
All right, so Ohio State opening line was 9.5, now to 8.5. Over under 46.5. I don't need you to pick if you don't have it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your thoughts on where the line sits.
Well, I do love Ohio State at -8.5. I don't really think it's going to go below 8. If it does, is some injury happen or something big breaks.
It'd have to be like a quarterback, right, to move the line at this point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't really explain why I like 8.5 better than 9.5. There's not really a big difference in a key number and stuff like that. But 8.5 is definitely a bet for Ohio State. And I kind of lean the under. I don't love betting that because this could be garbage points and all that stuff. But I don't really see how Notre Dame scores a lot here.
I agree. I'm scared of the over there.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't touch it. But if you trap me and force me to bet it, I'd probably lean under.
So you mentioned key numbers. So 9.5 if it got to 10, that's a number where you're like, okay, hold on.
Yeah, I would hold off just because I don't like. I mean, this is still the national championship game, right? Double-digit favorite in a national championship game is a lot of points. Even 8.5 is a lot of points, but I do think Ohio State is better by this.
And it could drop to 7.5. And it wouldn't
affect me.
Long as it stays between 7 and 10.
Yeah, I mean, I like the 8.5. I like that number. So if it goes lower, I'm still gonna bet it. If it goes higher, I'd probably bet to 9.5. Yeah, but once 10, I might just wait. Because you bet live, so I mean, might wait to see how the game kind of goes, and then if I miss it, I miss it. The big thing is you win a lot of bets by not betting, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
Because if you don't like the number, don't bet it. Because then you're gonna. How many times do we see these teams down by 2 scores and there are 30 seconds left and they're never gonna come back, but they're at the 3-yard line and they kick the field goal because they still got to get the onside kick. It's like that kills your spread.
Yeah.
So
live betting's tricky too, though.
Yes, very. You got to catch the right time.
If Ohio State goes up in the first 2 minutes, it's going to go to 14.
You lost it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You got to lay off. Like, all right, just enjoy the game. But my bet that I'm actually going to place, and I'm taking a page out of your book, is Cordell Tate's over receiving.
Carnell Tate.
Carnell. Well, yeah, whatever. I don't even know his first name.
Hey, he's a stud.
Tate, number 17, over receiving yards. I think it's like 48.5.
40.5.
40.5. Even better.
And so the theory behind this is he's wide receiver 3. On most teams, he'd be wide receiver 1, at worst 2.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
here's the thing. If they go the Texas route and they take away Jeremiah Smith, this hits no problem.
And this bet's still got a chance even if they don't do that.
Exactly, because he's kind of like the security blanket. Because even Ibuka is kind of just like I don't think he gets a lot of targets for how good of a player he is. It's Tate recently in the playoffs has gotten a lot of targets, and that, like I said earlier, I'm going with the guys with the opportunity to hit this number. I think he's going to get the.
So let me then offer this out to you. So he dropped a touchdown. I can't believe he did to start the game.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime touchdown plus 240.
Man, I don't know. It's a good one, but he's I consider him more of like an in between the 20s type of guy because he'll get you there.
He gets those third downs.
He gets those third downs, and then Ibuka and Smith are really the guys you're looking for in the red zone.
So Jeremiah Smith, the Oregon game was plus 100 for anytime touchdown. Last week he was minus 165. Of course, obviously, he's minus 135 right now. If you're giving betting advice, minus 135, is that too much?
For an anytime touchdown, yeah. I mean, unless it's a running back, I don't like betting a receiver at negative odds.
That's what I thought.
But I mean, for fun, a one game, it's the Super Bowl, right? Like you know, you want to have some action. Yeah, maybe I sprinkle that. The actual price is not out of my range. It's just for that type of bet. I don't love that.
I need to make sure that Georgia's a betting state because Texas is not.
I don't believe.
So I had to get the bets off.
I did not realize that.
Everything is legal in Texas, not gambling.
Yeah,
that is wild. I don't know why I did not know that.
And so I couldn't. I like to wait the day of, see if there's any boosts on FanDuel or whatever. Couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. So your FanDuel just locks up.
Texas has drive-thrus to get daiquiris and margaritas on the way home from work, but you can't fire off a bet.
Wow. Can't
Yeah.
put $5 down on a spread.
No.
Yeah.
Let me check
Just
for
roll.
if Atlanta's.
So
Yeah, we didn't
I
know
don't think
that.
we need to do it, but I'm assuming Ohio State.
Yeah, I wish I
Yeah.
felt differently, but I'm going to have to give that one to you. It's been a very
We're all picking Ohio State. We'll be popping bottles of champagne victory.
we know you will be.
If you have a table at Magic City, call me. Let me join it.
Shout out Blondie.
Celebrate in there.
Shout out Blondie.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hellman's Mayonnaise, #1 selling mayonnaise brand. If you're having a national championship party, go to hellmans.com/recipes for all your inspiration. If you're in Charlotte having a party, call Tampa Tim's.
Yeah, call me.
It's a
I'll
great
come.
time.
He's the guy.
Go Bucks.